I'm Keith Fogg. I'm with the Low Income Tax Clinic in Villanova University, and with me on the panel today are immediately to my right Judge Carluzzo. Judge Carluzzo is a special trial judge or special trial commissioner. I'm not sure what the proper title is. With the United States Tax Court, he's been doing that for about 15 years. And the most important thing to know about Judge Carluzzo is that he's a graduate of Villanova Law School. To his right is Elizabeth Copeland. Elizabeth is an attorney, a partner with Oppenheimer, Blind, Harrison, and Tate in San Antonio, Texas. She has organized for the Texas State Bar a pro bono program where the attorneys in Texas are appearing at calendar call in S cases and blended calendars throughout that state. And I think directly as a result of that and other work, she is the 2009 recipient of the Tax Section's Pro Bono Award. And we're going to talk for a minute about what it means to set up a pro bono program and what could be expected both from the court and from the attorneys who are engaged in that program. And then we will move on from that to actually demonstrate a tax court calendar, after which we will demonstrate an interview between a pro bono attorney who's picking up a case at the calendar and her client. Then we will demonstrate an interview between the attorney who's picked up the new client, the client, and the Internal Revenue Service chief counsel lawyer. And then we'll conclude with another panel to kind of discuss what you've seen. And I should mention that the program today is a jointly sponsored program. There's 4 different committees of the tax section that have joined together to sponsor this program, and they are the Pro Bono Committee, the Court Procedure Committee, the Young Lawyers Forum, and the LITC Committee. And Judge Carluzzo, I guess if you'd start us off with the court's views on these types of programs.
Thank you, and thank all the folks you just mentioned for inviting me here to participate in this. Just by way of background, to put what I'm about to say in context, I'm going to spend about 30 seconds giving a little more detail on my background. Upon graduation from law school, from Villanova Law School, thank you, I clerked for a trial judge. Following that, I was in the prosecutor's office for a period of time. Following that, I was in private practice for a period of time doing controversy work. Following that, I was in chief counsel's office for a longer period of time. And I've been a special trial judge now for 15 years with the tax court. And I tell you that because over those years, I have developed a real fondness for the adversary system. And I think our system of jurisprudence and the manner in which we resolve controversies is second to none. I think it works. I think it works better than systems I'm familiar with in other areas. And I think it works best when the litigants are represented. I think it works not so well when one side is represented and the other side is not. And I don't say that. Typically when we talk about the pro se's in tax court, we're talking about the petitioners. I guess every now and then the government virtually appears pro se, but it doesn't happen that often. Usually it's the petitioner who is pro se. And when I say it doesn't work so well when one side is not represented, that's not to suggest that the IRS attorneys are oppressive or take advantage of the situation. I do not see that. I don't find that to be the case. What ends up happening is you have a record that's developed essentially by a pro se. And during the trial, things might not be so apparent to the judicial officer that become more apparent when that judge is back in his or her chambers, gone through the record in detail, gone through the evidence, reading through the documents, researching the law, and then saying, boy, there's a lot missing here. And it's just a very uncomfortable feeling to have to resolve the controversies without a complete record. And I think that's where representation on both sides fills the gap. We feel a little bit like paleontologists. You know, we get a little piece of the bone. We got the record. We have pieces of bone, and now all of a sudden we have to construct the whole animal. And it doesn't always work so well, and not particularly satisfying. With respect to the pro bono programs, the calendar call programs, I will tell you the impression on behalf of the tax court. Certainly Chief Judge Colvin commented on it yesterday. It is very well received. We look upon it very favorably. Chief Judge Colvin and Chief Special Trial Judge Panuthos would evidence that observation if you knew how much time, attention, and interest that both of those judicial officers have expressed in the program. Elizabeth, I'm sure, knows better than I. I don't. I have not been that much involved in the planning or the promotion of it, but I have experienced it in different cities. For the most part, it is invisible, and that is a compliment. I will make an announcement that there are volunteer pro bono attorneys available, and then more often than not, I never see the petitioners again. The next thing I hear is the case has been settled, and I tend then to the matters that require my attention. So I could not be more in favor of the program, nor could I more encourage participation of those of you who will have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. With that, I'm going to turn to a couple of items, and that is how to set it up and some of the inner workings of the actual program itself, and then we'll go on to the demonstrations. I will mention that all the materials that are addressed today are on the website, the ABA website, under the pro bono link. So when you're viewing this webcast, you can also click on and pull up all the materials. In the back of the room, for those of us here today, there are some sample letters and things, sample rules to set up the program. I was responsible for setting up the State Bar of Texas Tax Court Pro Bono program, and was thrilled. We borrowed from a model that was working in Los Angeles, and shortly after the tax court published rules on setting up calendar call programs, we followed those rules and set up ours. One of the key things for setting it up in your materials is a letter that you can use as a sample to send to Chief Judge Colvin to get your program started. It's very simple. The thing I want to emphasize to anybody out there who's listening to this broadcast or in my audience is that it is so easy to get these started. There's a lot of materials available. We are so fortunate at the ABA to have Katrina Engel able to help you in the process, and she's very accessible. And also you can get her information through the link at the ABA website as well. The key challenge to setting up a program, of course, is getting through your first one. So you send your letter to the Chief Judge, you send your letter back acknowledging the program, and then what you'll do is you'll go on the United States Tax Court website at ustaxcourt.gov and figure out when the next calendar is landing in your city. These are also published through other publications like RAA and Tax Notes. You contact the judge ahead of time, generally by letter, and I have a sample letter in your packet for telling the judge that your program in your city is ready to be there to assist pro se taxpayers at the calendar call. And I generally list all the volunteer attorneys that are going to be there to help so that the judge has knowledge of how many will be there and kind of their names. I generally check in early with the court. The court, you can correct me if I'm wrong, always the calendar call is always at 10 a.m. in the city that's happening. There may be exceptions.
Most of the time they're set at 10 a.m. In some of the smaller cities where we go only once a year, and perhaps we're only there for a day or two, there may be the odd situation where we start at 9, but it's mostly at 10 o'clock. Okay. That's correct.
In an example where you're starting at 10 a.m., all your volunteer attorneys would be there by 9:30. You'd tell the judge's clerk that's there running the calendar call that you're there. Most tax court judges like an opportunity just to meet with the volunteer attorneys shortly before the calendar call in their chambers, introduce themselves and get to know who it is that's going to be taking care of these cases. And then we kind of sulk back to the back of the courtroom and wait for the calendar call. The judge, in almost all cases, will announce that you're available, announce that it's free pro bono services that anyone can take advantage of, and then your coordinator, your person in charge of the calendar call, which is the State Bar representative, will assign clients and attorneys as it happens. After the client comes to the podium, says he's there, and talks to the judge and makes the judge aware that he wants the help of a pro bono attorney, we match him up, and then they go into counsel room, if counsel room's available at that courthouse, otherwise in the hall, and talk to the clients about their case. The judge was asking me, what's the first thing we ask for when we get there? Well, it's the trial memo that the area counsel has presented. And that's the other thing that's key with these programs. There needs to be very much a triangle of cooperation. The judge needs to know you're there, area counsel needs to know you're there, and your state bar needs to know you're there. And all those parties are happy to work together to make a resolution happen on behalf of these taxpayers. It's a fabulous program. There's so many benefits that come out of it, both for you as the attorney actually going out in the community and helping someone. I've actually had quite a few taxpayers cry because they didn't think that they were going to ever get their case resolved, and you were able to negotiate a settlement on their behalf of something that was an insurmountable task for them. And they've been so nervous all the way up to the time that you got to that resolution. So it has huge amounts of benefit personally for the attorneys that participate, obviously for the clients that benefit from your legal expertise, and also for area counsel who'd much rather be dealing with the law than the difficulty of someone who doesn't understand what type of evidence to present and really whether the law is in favor of their case or not. So it really is a win-win situation. With our particular attorneys and with most of the programs, we have them sign a participation agreement. It's like a modified limitation engagement letter that makes them aware that we're not going to charge them a fee, but that our representation is limited to that one day being there at the calendar call. When you are volunteering, you have no obligation to take on the case. You do not have to enter an appearance in the calendar call programs, which makes it very easy to solicit volunteers. And the way that our state bar solicits volunteers is through email blasts, talking about when the program is there, as well as what time you're expected to show up and what judge is going to be at that particular session. I have had the fortune of having wait lists of volunteers because so many people volunteer. The key to a successful program is you have to have a mix of both very experienced trial attorneys and also enthusiastic young attorneys who are there to get the experience. And if you have that, you're going to have a fabulously well-run calendar call. The other thing that I will tell everyone is if you are running one of these programs, and I mentioned the experienced attorney, the other volunteers don't have to be nervous that they're sitting there without guidance, because there is an experienced attorney that they can turn to if they have questions. And that's the key to a successful calendar call as well.
Elizabeth mentioned that the cooperative effort in a triangle, the satisfaction for the pro bono attorneys who are involved, the benefits to the IRS folks, and Elizabeth mentioned the client that she had that cried upon a successful resolution, but she sort of left the court out because we also are the beneficiaries of the program, and I can tell you that when the parties come back and announce a basis of settlement, that always brings a tear to my eye.
I actually should have said it was a square because my triangle was thinking of the tax court, area counsel, and us as attorneys, but I'm the one who left out the client. The client's also benefiting as well. They are really successful programs so far. It is unfortunate that there are a number of areas in the country that don't have programs yet, but we're hopeful with this broadcast and with this effort that we will have a training program for those programs that aren't yet developed and are interested in developing it and want to know what's involved in getting there. And we're just facilitating the process so that it can make it easy for you to train your volunteers by watching the simulated calendar call and watching a simulated negotiation so that you can have a successful program in your state or city as well.
I just want to bring in another facet to this, which is the low-income tax clinics that exist today. At Villanova, we have a low-income tax clinic, and we actually cover the calendar call in Philadelphia. But there are a number of places where there are low-income tax clinics that exist that are not covering calendar calls, but that can be partnered with if you have a pro bono program, because the idea of this program is to show up at calendar call and give immediate representation and try to take care of the problem. some problems don't go away that day. And if you're aware, if you're setting up one of these programs and you're aware that there's a low-income tax clinic in the area where the program is being set up, you should also look to partner with that program, because that is a source that could be used to take the case and handle it in the days and weeks and months that may follow the calendar call if the case is not resolved that day.
And that's an excellent point, Keith. I will mention that we serve 5 cities in Texas, but in our Dallas program, we coordinate with the SMU Law Clinic, and so any clients that we feel need continuing representation, we refer to SMU after the calendar call.
So with that discussion, we're going to take a break.